Starting in this month of March, in the city of Utrecht in the Netherlands, thousands of fish will begin to make their way toward their spawning ground through the canals that run through the heart of that city. More than a dozen different species of fish run through these canals, and some of them go all the way to Germany to spawn. But there is one big problem, or at least a big problem if you're a relatively little fish, and that is that in the middle of the downtown there is a lock on the canal, a big underwater gate that can be opened and closed to adjust the water level, to help the canal boats as they travel through. A great invention for humans, not so great for the fish. The lock is manually operated by a worker in a little booth who goes out to turn a big wheel to let the boats go through, and I have a picture of that worker and that wheel and that canal. So what about the fish? It used to be that the fish would get stuck at the gate, and more fish would arrive, stuck until a boat happened to come through, until there were so many fish perhaps that the lock keeper would notice them and would go out to open the gate for them. And in the spring, during spawning season, it can become quite the fish traffic jam. So imagine yourself on the 101 South, going through Montecito, where you get funneled into that construction zone with the concrete barriers right on either side. Now imagine if you had to wait for someone to show up and lower a gate before you could get through. And now imagine there were giant birds of prey circling overhead, picking off motorists as they gathered in that pinch point. In the canal, the fish traffic at the lock not only made them easy prey for birds, but also the larger predatory fish learned they could hang around and pick off the littler ones as they arrived. The whole scene was very stressful for the fish, who just wanted to find a nice place to lay their eggs. So several years ago, some of the people in Utrecht invented a fish doorbell. Now, the Dutch have many remarkable things, but they have not added hands to fish nor trained fish to ring a doorbell. They have trained people to do it for the fish instead. They installed an underwater camera and set up a web stream with a live view of underwater in the canal so that anyone, anywhere in the world, can log on and wait for the fish to arrive at the lock. And when someone sees a fish, they click on that doorbell button on the live stream. And here are some pictures of some of the fish that they have seen over the recent past. And when enough people click on that doorbell, it alerts the lock keeper, who then goes out and turns that big wheel and lets the fish through. And while you're watching, there's a little count on the bottom of the screen that tells you how many other people are watching at the exact same time. Often hundreds, sometimes thousands. And for that moment, you become part of the fish doorbell community. And I learned this morning that Blaze is part of our fish doorbell community here in this congregation. How many of others of you maybe have been part of the fish doorbell community? Just Blaze and I? Well, now you have an opportunity to join in the fun. And here is right now, this very moment, what it looks like under the water in the canal in Utrecht. It's getting dark there right now. It's 8 hours ahead, so I don't know if we'll see much. The busiest times for fish are at dawn and dusk, and the doorbell is active from March through May, with the busiest month being April. So we're just heading into fish doorbell season, if you want to take part. And in 2025, 2.7 million people viewed fish through the fish doorbell website, or hoped to view fish through the fish doorbell. So aside from the fact that this is just undeniably cool, why am I telling you a fish story this morning of the equinox? The spring equinox, like the other seasonal observances in the wheel of the year, invites us to think about the cycles of the natural world and how we humans, as part of that natural world, live in relationship to all that is around us. The equinox in particular brings up the question of balance. As the day and night come into balance this Friday and our hemisphere begins once again to tilt toward the sun, I find myself wondering, what does it mean right now, in this age of global warming and climate change? What does it mean to live in balance with the world? Is it even possible anymore? And then I thought of the fish doorbell and the hundreds of people right now who have this same little window open on their desktop or phone, just waiting for a fish to swim by in a canal possibly thousands of miles from where they are. I think of the millions of people who have gathered in something like a community, united by the perch and the pike and the bream, who are absolutely oblivious to our existence right now. And the interdependence of it all is beautiful. The restoration of balance between the needs of the fish and the needs of the humans who have been using this canal for transportation for generations. No profit motive in the fish doorbell, no product, nothing but a little dopamine, perhaps, that happiness hormone in the brain when a fish swims by and you get to press the little button that says, "Hey, there's a fish friend, open the gate." And feeling like part of something real. Something that is happening right now in the world through the miracle of the unseen networks of wireless connections and computer code that lies behind all of this human-to-fish relationship. As always, it comes back to interdependence, doesn't it? The recognition that the fish and our future are necessary to one another, that we need to figure out a way to survive together. There's often a sense that to save the planet, or at least save the livability of the planet for us, we have to go backwards. We have to slow down. We have to rewind the clock. We have to return to something prior, to some version of our lives where we didn't muck it all up in the first place. This desire to live into an alternative timeline. There's this idea that nature was once something separate from technology, in some important way balanced, and that salvation for whatever this mess is that we're in is found in returning as much as we can to that pre-industrial place before we humans got ahead of ourselves, before we unleashed the powerful technologies that now threaten to destroy us. And there is truth to this, of course. We do indeed have to rewind some things, to stop doing some things. We have to stop burning these enormous amounts of fossil fuels if we want to get through this crisis point, through this lock in the canal. We do have to slow down our extraction of resources to find ways to curb the seemingly insatiable appetites of humanity. To acknowledge that there are, in fact, limits to how much we can consume before we throw everything irreversibly out of balance. But when the conversation focuses entirely on what we have to stop doing, I find myself thrown into despair. Not because I disagree with the diagnosis, but because I despair that we human beings do not have a good track record when it comes to self-restraint. This is not one of our strong suits as human beings. There are many things we are good at. It might be hard to believe in the moment, given global events, but we do have many fine qualities, we human beings. We, as a species, with lots of individual variation, of course, as a whole, we are collaborative and creative and loving and funny and brave. We are constantly learning and inventing and adapting. We move around, we migrate and mingle and create astonishing wonders of art and science and spirit. But when it comes to self-restraint, when it comes to holding back on our use of power once we have it, when it comes to willingly giving up things that bring us comfort, well, again, with notable exceptions, most people find it hard to let go. We are terrible at putting the genie back in the bottle, as the saying goes. So you can see why I might despair when I hear the message that the only way to heal the planet is by doing something that we humans have not historically been very good at. It's hard for me to have hope, to imagine a better and more balanced future, if that hope relies on us suddenly being very different than we ever have been in the past. So this year's equinox has got me asking, what does seeking balance look like without relying on humanity suddenly becoming uncharacteristically self-denying and ascetic? How do we have that vision for our future? What if we played to our strengths instead of our weaknesses? And this is where the fish doorbell comes in. We are a collaborative species, a creative species, and this is an example of how we collaborate, not just with one another, but with the world itself as it is, as a whole. The fish and the canals, the lot keeper and his big wheel, the internet, the possibility of relying on access to a global community to solve a local problem. It's the inverse of that phrase, think globally and act locally, isn't it? Here, the thinking was local, and the action, watching the fish ringing that doorbell, is global. It runs with the idea that we are built to be interdependent, that our instinct is to build community even around something so simple as watching a fish on a camera. We will build a fan base around anything, right? If we want to inspire people to work hard to pull out of this death spiral we seem so intent on chasing, we've got to lean into our strengths and use those capacities to enter into a creative collaboration with the world, a perspective that sees humans as part of an interdependent web rather than as consumers at the top of a hierarchy of resources. Not long ago, I was invited to an event hosted by the Sustainable Change Alliance, a group here in Santa Barbara that invests in local companies and initiatives that address social and environmental challenges. There were several folks from USSB there, and one of the speakers was a member of the congregation who is someone who works in material sciences, the basic building blocks of the world. The founder of a company that's working on a new form of plastic that is nearly infinitely recyclable. And I know I'm oversimplifying this. I'm a minister, not a materials scientist, but it's something like Legos, polymers, right? Those polymers that I talked about in the miracle fish this morning, those polymers that can be combined and recombined in all kinds of different ways, all kinds of variability over and over again, to stop producing the waste in plastic that threatens to overwhelm us. Like the folks in Utrecht, this is an example of thinking locally and acting globally, looking at the whole system of which we are a part. From the production in a lab in one place and manufacturing across the globe to us here who consume products, we look at the whole system and figure out where we can get inside of it and change it and transform it. If we truly believe that we are part of something larger that is networked together, ecosystems within ecosystems, then we cannot give up the power to change those systems so easily. We cannot keep focusing on what we shouldn't do, but we have to add to that also what we can do, and we have to think boldly and brilliantly about what's possible. Global change is possible, but only if we work together and resist the illusion that we are separate from the whole. Creative collaboration with the world in this way, it's not just about a Mary Oliver poem or a Wendell Berry poem about reconnecting with nature, although I love that poetry, and I love lying where the wood drake is by the ponds. But it also means seeing the whole world as it is right now, all the beauty and all of the trash, and all of the human behaviors that hurt and help, all the interconnection, even the things we would rather not be interconnected with. It's lovely to be interconnected with the fish in the Utrecht canals. Not so lovely to see the thread that connects us to the fires consuming the oil machinery in Iran. In this war that is ultimately connected to our reliance on technologies that are destroying us. We must also look towards those ways we can reimagine what will connect us and help us thrive. Now, I want to make it clear at this point that while I don't idolize a pre-industrial world, I am not a techno-futurist either. Techno-futurism is this strain that says we can sit back and rely on those smart people somewhere in the future to solve the problems that we create today. Don't worry about carbon footprints. Don't worry about plastics, because those fabulous folks in the future will save us. We don't have to feel remorse or guilt about our unchecked consumption, because we have faith that technology will emerge to address it. Instead of placing their hope in rewinding to an imagined past, the techno-futurists place their hope in an unyet realized future. But what observing the equinox has reminded me as I wrestle with these hard questions, it reminds me that balance is right here. Balance, that point of dancing between the past and the future, between night and day, between the fish in the canal and the oil refineries on fire in Iran, that balance we will need to cultivate if we want to stay livable. That balance is created in the world right now, in the way we live in the present. Not just in the small actions we take every day to maintain our own integrity as part of this web, but in the way we cultivate our relationships and our imaginations, the way we understand humanity and work with these incredible gifts that we have, at the same time reckoning with and mitigating the selfishness and greed that is also always present among us. I've mentioned the word polymer twice on a Sunday morning, something that I never thought would be part of ministry. The miracle fish is made of polymers, the non-recyclable kind, for which I will admit I carry some guilt. But what I loved about that this morning, that little experiment that we held in the palm of our hand, is that it is an example of the wonder and joy with which we human beings approach life. There is no reason for that little fish to exist except that it makes us laugh, that it brings us a little happiness together. It's not really useful in any real way, but sometimes the inventions we create, they spark joy in unimaginable ways. The internet was not created to watch fish in the Netherlands, but here we are, doing just that. This opportunity for connection emerging from the world. And therein lies our hope and our challenge. As anyone who has ever ridden a bike knows, balance is a dynamic project. It only works when you are moving. It is not a fixed point, but a dance that moves in cycles and circles. We can't go back. We can't stand still. Moving forward into the future is the only option. But we do have what we need right now, in collaboration with the world, to see us through this moment, to get us through that lock, tilting toward the sun, growing again toward the light. It is possible, and we have what we need if we can imagine it together. Let us do that work. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.